Every goal you've abandoned was a casualty of the wrong kind of fuel. You pushed, you strained, you white-knuckled your way forward, and eventually the engine seized. This video will show you the difference between the high-octane fuel of inspired action and the sludge of forced effort that gums up the works. And the resistance you feel right now in that project you're procrastinating on is a diagnostic signal. It's telling you something vital about the machine you're operating. That signal is something our culture has trained us to override. From the industrial age ideal of the tireless factory worker to the modern gospel of hustle culture, we're sold a single story: effort is a virtue and resistance is a moral failing. The harder it feels, the more noble the pursuit. So when we encounter that deep internal friction, that grinding sense of pushing a boulder uphill for inches of progress, we diagnose the problem as a personal deficit, a lack of discipline, a failure of will. We double down, drink another coffee, and push harder. This is like finding your car stuck deep in mud and believing the only solution is to floor the accelerator. With more conviction, you hear the engine scream, you feel the chassis shake, and you see mud fly everywhere. It creates the illusion of intense effort, but the wheels just spin faster, digging themselves deeper into the same rut. You're burning fuel to become more stuck. The problem was never the engine's power, it was the entire approach. The real solution might be to let some air out of the tires to increase their surface area. It might be to wedge a branch under the wheel for traction. It might even be to get out of the car, walk a mile, and find someone with a tow truck. These are solutions of leverage and insight, not force. But if brute force is the only tool you've been taught to trust, where does insight even come from? It's generated by a completely different system in your brain, one that discipline can't command and willpower can't bully into submission. Think of your brain as a hybrid vehicle with two distinct engines. The first is your prefrontal cortex, the seat of your conscious mind. This is your executive control center, handling complex logic, long-term planning, and moment-to-moment willpower. It's incredibly powerful, but it runs on a finite and expensive fuel: focused attention and metabolic energy. This is the engine of forced action. Every time you make yourself sit down to tackle a task you dread, you are draining this precious resource. This is the neurological basis of decision fatigue. Studies of judges have shown their rulings become progressively less nuanced and more simplistic as the day wears on. They default to the easiest decision, denying parole, because their high-level reasoning engine is running on fumes. You felt this. It's the 4 p.m. slump where choosing what to have for dinner feels like a monumental task. You've run the tank dry. The second engine is a vast, ancient network of subconscious processes, centered in areas like the basal ganglia. This is the engine of habit, intuition, and automatic skill. It runs on a fuel that seems almost limitless: pattern recognition and association. This is the engine of inspired action. Consider the process of learning a musical instrument. At first, it's all the first engine. Conscious, painstaking effort to place each finger correctly, to read each note. It's mentally exhausting. But after hundreds of hours, something shifts. You can play a familiar piece while your conscious mind drifts elsewhere. The entire complex sequence of movements has been handed over to the second engine. It's become automatic, effortless. Inspired action feels like this. It's a pull, a current, an intuitive knowing of the next right move. It feels easy because it's running on a system designed for high efficiency, low energy output. This explains why it feels better, but it offers no clue how to engage that system on purpose. The source code for that engine is stored in a file that has very little to do with motivation or discipline. That source code is your identity. The feeling we call inspiration is a feedback signal from your nervous system. It's the hum of coherence between a potential action and your deeply held, often subconscious, sense of self. Conversely, the feeling of force and resistance is the grinding noise of cognitive dissonance. It's the friction generated when you try to execute a behavior that contradicts the person you believe you are. The smoker trying to quit is the classic example. Their stated goal is to stop smoking, but their identity is a smoker. This creates a state of constant internal warfare. Every moment they resist a cigarette is a conscious, willpower-draining act of rebellion against their own self-concept. The battle is exhausting, and relapse is the path of least resistance back to identity-congruent behavior. Contrast this with someone who experiences a fundamental identity shift. They start to see themselves as a healthy person or a non-smoker. For this person, refusing a cigarette is an act of self-expression. It's simply what a non-smoker does. The inspiration to maintain the new behavior comes from this internal consistency. Every action you take, no matter how small, is a vote cast for the type of person you are. Hitting the snooze button is a vote for, I am someone who doesn't keep their promises to themselves. Finishing a workout when you want to quit is a vote for, I am someone who finishes what they start. Forced action is the exhausting process of trying to cast a vote that goes against your long-established voting record. Some will argue that you have to fake it till you make it, and they're partially right. But the brain is a sophisticated lie detector. Simply telling yourself, I am a disciplined person, while your actions consistently vote otherwise, just creates more internal conflict. The faking has to happen at the level of behavior. You have to cast enough small new votes that the identity itself begins to shift. So how do you start casting those votes when the old identity is fighting back so hard? There's a back door. It operates on a simple principle of physics. That principle is resonance. In the physical world, every object and system has a natural frequency at which it prefers to vibrate. If you introduce an external energy source that matches this natural frequency, the system's vibrations amplify dramatically with very little energy input. This is resonance. It's why a singer can shatter a wine glass by hitting the exact right note. Trying to make the glass vibrate at a different frequency, however, requires a huge amount of force and produces a dead, dampened sound. Forced action is trying to generate a vibration your system is not tuned for. You're trying to force the feeling of confidence while your internal monologue, your posture, and your environment are all tuned to the frequency of self-doubt. The effort is immense, and the result is fragile. Inspired action is the feeling of resonance. It's when your thoughts, emotions, environment, and goals are all vibrating in harmony with your desired identity. The right ideas, insights, and opportunities seem to appear effortlessly because your entire being is a finely tuned antenna for that specific frequency. This is where your mental diet becomes the most critical factor. The information you consume, the conversations you engage in, the people you surround yourself with, these are all external frequencies you're introducing to your system. Neuroscience shows this is more than a metaphor. Mirror neurons in your brain cause you to subconsciously mimic the emotional and physiological states of those around you. Being in a room of anxious people will literally begin to tune your nervous system to the frequency of anxiety. If you want to become a calm, focused person, but you spend your days marinating in panicked news and agitated online arguments, you are making it nearly impossible for the frequency of calm to resonate. You can try to fight it with willpower, or you can simply change the channel. But there's an even more direct method. You can manually retune the piece of hardware your brain uses to filter reality itself. Deep in your brainstem, connecting your spinal cord to your cerebrum, lies a network of neurons called the reticular activating system, or RAS. You can think of it as the bouncer at the nightclub of your conscious mind. Out of the billions of bits of sensory data flooding your system every second, the feeling of your clothes, the ambient noise, the subtle sense in the air, the RAS decides what tiny fraction is important enough to get past the velvet rope. Its guest list is determined by three things: physical survival, novelty, and whatever you have tagged as currently important. This is the mechanism behind the cocktail party effect. You can be in a loud, crowded room, completely tuning out dozens of conversations, but the moment someone says your name, it cuts through the noise like a laser. Your name is permanently on the VIP list. When you decide to buy a specific model of car, you are temporarily adding that car to the list. The cars were always on the road. Your RAS was simply filtering them out as irrelevant noise. Once you signaled your interest, it updated the filter settings. Forced action is the struggle of trying to achieve a goal that your RAS is actively filtering against. You are consciously scanning the horizon for opportunities, but your subconscious filter is set to confirm current limitations. It's like trying to find a specific website while your internet filter is programmed to block it. You can try to find workarounds, but you're fighting your own system. You give it a new, clear target, a new identity, a new obsession, The system then automatically starts highlighting relevant information, people, conversations and ideas that were previously invisible to you. This is the neurobiology of serendipity. It feels like magic, but it's just a change in your perception filter. So what is the master command that sets the parameters of this powerful filter? It's the most consistent, pervasive input you give your brain, and you're almost certainly using it to reinforce the very cage you're trying to escape. That master command is your internal monologue. The specific, repeated words you use in your head are the literal programming language for your reality filter. They are the daily instructions you are feeding to your reticular activating system. Forced action is scripted and powered by the language of obligation. Listen closely to the words that arise when you think about a task you're resisting. I have to finish this presentation. I should go to the gym. I must make those sales calls. Have to, should, must. These words frame the world in terms of coercion and constraint. They imply an external pressure fighting an internal resistance. It's the vocabulary of a prisoner. Your RAS hears these commands and sets its filter to find evidence to support this narrative of burden. It will selectively highlight how tired you are, how difficult the task is, and how many other things you'd rather be doing. You are programming your perception for struggle. Inspired action, in contrast, is generated by the language of possibility and autonomy. It sounds like this: I get to share my ideas in this presentation. I want to see what my body is capable of. How could I make these sales calls feel like a game? Get to, want to. How could I? This language frames the activity as a choice, an opportunity, an exploration. It's the vocabulary of an architect. Your RAS hears these instructions and adjusts its filter. It starts actively searching for creative solutions, unexpected resources, and reasons for engagement. It will filter for the energy you need instead of filtering for the resistance. This is about finding a genuinely different frame that feels true. Shifting from "I have to write this chapter" to the question, "What's the one true thing I want to say in this chapter?" is a small linguistic pivot. But it's a massive change in the directive you're sending to the gatekeeper of your perception. So that feeling of resistance, that heavy grinding friction you experience when you try to force yourself forward, is a gift. It's a high-fidelity diagnostic signal from your core. It's your subconscious, your very identity, telling you that the path you are on, or the way you are walking it, is out of alignment. Pushing harder is like turning up the volume on a radio playing pure static. It just creates more noise and a bigger headache. It will never reveal the music. The real work is to stop pushing and start listening. The resistance is a compass. It is pointing directly at a misalignment between your actions and your identity, your environment, or the very language you use to frame your world. Inspired action isn't a mystical force you summon through sheer will. It's a natural consequence of getting your internal world into resonance. The flow state you're chasing is the effortless hum of that harmony. The struggle is not a badge of honor. It is data. It is pointing to the blueprint. The car stuck in the mud doesn't need a bigger engine. It needs a different angle. It needs leverage. The resistance you feel isn't telling you that you're weak. It's telling you that the person you're trying to force yourself to be isn't the person you've built the foundation for yet. And the first piece of that foundation is laid with the next word you choose to say to yourself.